Hi, welcome to another Tools Motivation training session. This is Justin Popovich from Tools Motivation. I was going to say I'm your host, but I'm trying to wean myself off saying that because our host is actually on the right side of my screen, affiliate manager and all things extraordinary Tools Motivation. I don't know. We have many titles here. Marie Mack. Marie, say hello.
Thank you so much, Justin. It's great to see everybody back here. We have been doing an amazing series recently where we're getting on experts and super grateful to have your support. I'm Marie Mack. I'm a part of your host here with Justin. And yeah, kick us off, Justin. You want to introduce Kathryn?
Yeah, so like if you've been at any of the previous sessions, we had Lou Bortone on talking about video advice. And at the start of the year before that, we had Marie actually doing a presentation as well. And the goal this year at Tools Motivation is every couple of weeks, usually on a Thursday, we're going to have either a guest speaker or sometimes it's going to be our team, kind of give or take, depending on the week. Some kind of free training where you can just show up, get some questions answered. We're going to try to hit a number of topics that are pretty hot at our help desk and in our emails. We actually have our sales manager on. His video is off right now, but Trevor Payne is here. So some of you may have, Trev, just wave. A lot of people do reach out and have direct phone calls or text messages or just email conversations with Trevor. So we really do get quite a good read on what people in the Tools Motivation community need. And one of the biggest ones is tech advice, which is why Marie lined up Kathryn Calhoun today. Kathryn, I'm just going to cheat and go over to a little meeting invite here and just read it, then we'll pass it right over to you. So for decades, Kathryn has been teaching coaches and entrepreneurs how to stop spinning in circles with the techie stuff in their online business. If you can relate, just nod your head or put up a little reaction. Her signature community is devoted to showing you how to DIY a simple, successful online business on a super shoestring budget. Love those words. Even if you're not all that techie, which I know a lot of people are because we've heard that from you. So in this training, Kathryn's going to give you a crash course on the essential things you need to do. I'm not going to go into too much because I think Kathryn's about to reveal that to you, but there's three things that she did kind of highlight here. So keep an eye out for these three. Number one, the number one focus of every successful online business. Number two, how to build a profitable business with one free tech tool, even if you're not tech savvy. And three, the easiest possible way to never run out of people to sell your stuff to. Kathryn, that sounds amazing. I'm going to pass it over to you because I really want to know what those things are.
Thanks. Awesome. I feel like you probably have a lot of this under control already, Justin, but thank you very much for having me, Justin and Marie. Of course, it's an honor to be here, and I love to talk techie stuff. So yeah, I'm going to be, like I said, this is a pretty informal little chat. I obviously have some stuff I want to cover. I recommend that you have something to take notes with. If you don't already, you just want to run and grab that really quickly. I also have a resource for you that's going to help you with a lot of textual recommendations because we don't have a ton of time together. And so although I'm all about the techie stuff, what I'm not all about at all is just tech for the sake of tech, because tech is essential. It's a non-negotiable for your online business. No matter how you feel about the tech, love it, hate it, doesn't matter. If you're going to have an online business, the tech is something that has to be figured out. However, when we focus too much on the tech, on, like getting into the nuances of what all the different tools do and what this tool, is this tool better than that tool, or, all of those kinds of things, we can get really lost in choosing tech or using tech, and we turn our attention away from the strategy part, the what's the plan, the what do I actually need to do? Because honestly, I do have tech recommendations, and those are in the resource, and we'll share that wherever we share it, whenever we share it. I know that Marie and Justin have the link for that. So I have all of the recommendations, my preferred tools. These are the tools I use in my business. They're also the tools that I recommend to my clients. These are the tools that I teach inside of my membership program. So everything I teach when it comes to tech, it's not just recommendations. It's like click by click by click by click tutorials. So if you aren't very good with the tech, that's kind of how I like to roll. But in this concentrated period of time, I just want to be super clear that the techie stuff is important, and we are going to talk about where to focus you on your tech. But it's always important for us to keep strategy at the top of our list of priorities, because you can accomplish the strategy with any number of tech tools, with different budgets, different levels of difficulty, all of those kinds of things. It's all possible and it's all fine. And at the end of the day, what I really want for you is to just be thrilled with your tech so that it's not in your way. Because if the tech is in your way, you're going to be distracted. You're going to feel like you're spinning in circles with your online business. You're going to want to like throw your computer at the wall. You're going to be like, I wish I could just focus on my zone of genius. I hate the techie stuff, or I hate selling, or I hate marketing. And so it's like, these are things that they're important, but it's the strategy that drives the bus. And that's so we're going to kind of be melding all of that together today. And then I'm going to do my best to answer all of the questions that we can get to because they always come up with every time I make a tech tool recommendation, I get a flurry of questions. It's like, well, what about this? Or I'm using this, is that okay? And the short answer is, as long as you're following a plan and you're doing something that's actually helping you to grow your business, I'm happy. I don't care. Do I have preferences as far as, what you should be using? Yeah, of course. Like I tend to recommend tools I have a bunch of criteria, some of which are like low cost or free, ideally, to get you started if that's something that's important. If you have a budgetary constraint. Does the tool have decent customer service so you can actually feel like you can talk like a normal human and still get your question answered? Do the tools play nicely together? Does your tech talk to it? Like, so if you have multiple tools, do they easily connect to one another? Because that can be a nightmare for those of you who have dealt with that before. When you're trying to it's like, okay, so somebody purchased my course. Now, how do I get them registered in the thing? It's like, and you don't know how to make that connection, that can sometimes be a pain in the butt. So I do have preferences, but at the end of the day, I just want you in action. That's all that I want. So I really want you to kind of think of this as an online business crash course. And I know that a lot of you are at different stages in your business. And so some of this may feel like if you hear what I say and you're like, I've heard this before, I just want to caution you to sort of ask yourself the question, instead of like, does this apply to me, or this doesn't apply to me right now? I would advise you to ask yourself the question, how does this apply to me? Because sometimes, I find that we've all attended presentations that, maybe didn't hit every single like hot button topic that we had in our brains. And because we have a limited time, I want to make sure that you get as much as you can from me. And we're probably not going to get to every single tech question under the sun. So just take what you can from this. And if some of this feels like a refresher, awesome. Just like, I want you to sort of drill into it and go, where can I go deeper with this? Where was there a reminder in here that I maybe needed? And then if this is all like brand new, fresh, new information for you, this is honestly what I'm covering today is what I wish I knew when I had started trying to like have a successful online business. I have been at this for over 20 years. I'm older than I look. And man, my first online business was, I had this wedding blog. I had this idea that I was going to, I was going to bring traffic to my website somehow. And people are going to read my blog posts, and then I'm going to be recommending like, it's affiliate marketing, basically, if you're familiar with that. I was going to be recommending, for example, a cool wedding stationery website where you could buy your wedding stationery online. I was engaged at the time, so I was all like very excited about wedding stuff, and we were planning our own wedding, and I was all, it's just, this happens, right? I was like super excited, and I decided to build the business around it. And so I'm trying to get traffic to my website, but it was like, I started with the website. Basically, I was like, okay, I want an online business. I'm going to refer traffic to these other businesses, and that's how I'm going to make my money. So what do I need to get started? In my head, I was like, well, I guess, okay, I want an online business. Online business equals website, which is not true. But I didn't know this at the time. And so I spent, 8 months DIYing a website with the worst, least user-friendly tool known to man. But finally my website was done, and I was like, okay, so I'm ready. Start like reading my blog posts and buying my stuff. And it didn't happen. And I know that maybe has happened to a lot of you. It certainly happened to a ton of my clients, where there's sort of this idea of, if I build my course, or if I build my website, or I start blogging, or I start posting, everywhere on social media and like following the latest online trends, whatever, somehow it's just going to happen. People are just going to find me. And my experience, and the experience of almost all of my clients, was just not the case. And so I started out with like basically just kind of like, it was, my solution was always to create something new. It was like, build the website, blog more, write a book, write another book, make a course, do all these things. And at the end of it, this was like, fast forward, I finally made my first affiliate sale. It took 2 years and the commission was for 32 cents. And I was like, I was actually quite excited because finally something was actually starting to work. And that eventually that business did grow into like a little sort of $3,000 a month kind of business, which was great. We were living in the States at the time. It enabled me to take a maternity leave. I'm the breadwinner in my family. So, I'm the person who makes the money. So it was, to have this kind of passive income was really lovely. And I was also like, this took a really long time. It took me 2 years to make my first sale. And I very slowly started to kind of deconstruct what went wrong with that. And I don't need to get too far into my like life story here, but I went on to start a copywriting agency. That was my educational background, commerce and writing. And then I started to work with all these entrepreneurs. And that's when I started to I got to sort of have my eyeballs and my fingers in so many different people's businesses that I started to kind of deconstruct what happened with my first business and why it didn't work and where I needed to focus going forward so that it did work. And so when I started my coaching business, I had my first client in 6 days, just from deciding to start the business. And it wasn't like it wasn't what we call retire to Fiji money. I think she paid me like $250 for 2 coaching sessions. And that was the end of it. Cause honestly, I probably wasn't that great a coach back then, but that was the start. And that was what led me to start my programs. And we broke 6 figures with my coaching business in 2 years. So it was like kind of really similar timeframes. And both work, by the way. This is the other thing I want you to know, like both ways work, but if we get the tech and if we're focusing on the right places with our strategy, it's a shorter path, and it also makes your tech a lot simpler, right? If you're not trying to be all over the place with a million different strategies, then there isn't a million different tech to-dos. And so that's to me where sort of the intersection between strategy and tech lives, is it's like we keep the strategy simple, we keep you focused in the right direction, and then the tech becomes this manageable piece of your business instead of this thing that's like taking over your life and like ruining everything. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was the number one focus of every successful online business. And this is something I don't want you to forget, especially if you've heard this before, like hang with me, this is important. It's having an email list. So in my head, email list equals visibility and visibility equals email list. This is a huge deal. It doesn't have to be a ginormous email list to start. We all start with an email list of 0 and then like 4 people and 2 of the email addresses are yours. And then like, that's where we start. It's fine. But this is a really, really big deal. And if you don't have an email list, it's not that it's impossible to be successful, but it's a lot harder. And your income is always going to be kind of like a question mark. Like, how do I know where my next person is coming from? How do I know where my next sale or my next client is coming from?
Kathryn, quick question here.
Yeah.
We're just going to do like a little poll, because Justin put this in the chat. If you already have an email list, put a 1 in the chat, because it'd be kind of interesting to see who already has an email list and who's taking this and saying like, okay, this is one of the number 1 focuses for your online business is an email list. Mm-hmm. So we're getting some 1s in here. I know we're probably getting, Esther put 0. So there's a couple people here that just tap into this. Like, this is a really big resource. So understanding an email list. Go ahead. Sorry, friend.
It's okay. If I can follow on to this question too, how many of us are like, we know that we have to have an email list and maybe we have the infrastructure together to build an email list, but we're not necessarily focusing a lot of our attention there. So it's like, in addition to the email list, it's like, we're trying to figure out launching, and we're trying to figure out webinars, and we're trying to put together an online course, and we're trying to, figure out the latest social media craze or whatever. Notice that there's a workshop that I teach once or twice a year. And it's called the Techie Stuff Workshop. It's free. And I give people this assessment it's the very first thing they get. And it's like, basically a list of the things you are probably attempting to do in your online business. And then there's 2 check boxes beside each one. One is, am I currently working on this? Or, I'm trying to work on it, or I've worked on it before, yes or no. And then the second checkbox is this making me money? Yes or no. And if it's not making you money and you don't know how it's going to make you money, like, notice that, right? And if you have all the time in the world to spend on your business, like when I started my wedding blog, it may sound a little tongue in cheek, but genuinely, when I started my wedding blog, we didn't have kids. I had a really easy job at the time. I had plenty of time on my hands. I had the luxury to screw around. And that when I started my coaching business, we were Airbnb-ing our house because we were having a lot of trouble making ends meet. We were living in our basement. We had a sort of a 1-bedroom kind of apartment, sort of wet bar with a bedroom kind of set up in our basement. We were living in our basement with our 2-year-old daughter, who was sleeping in a playpen in the walk-in closet off the bedroom. And I was 7.5 months pregnant with baby number 2. And it was it was scary. And I don't know about you, but for me, when the pressure is on and I have to monetize in a focused, intelligent, smart, strategic way, I tend to get right to the point. But when I had the time to just try all of the things, it took forever. So anyway.
I love this. I love this because you know me, I am a time on target kind of person. I love putting deadlines to things. And I think that not only is it have an email list, but also give yourself a deadline on why this is super important. It's just like being a speaker. If you're going to have a speaking spot, you all of a sudden can be the best speaker because you're like, oh crap, I got to get this together. So yeah, super lovely. We have a couple questions. We're seeing them in the chat. We're just going to make note of them. Kathryn will answer those after because they're kind of getting down and dirty. We want to make sure Kathryn has plenty of time. So thank you. Sorry for interrupting, but just want to make sure. And first, you go, girl. Rob says it in the chat there, amazing. Thank you, Rob. You're fantastic. I love that you're here. That's a big deal. Main breadwinner, doing what you have to do. I'm sure we can all relate at some point. I know I'm the same kind of way. I know Justin was when he started his business. We've been there, and Kathryn's going to share a little bit more about what comes up next. What else can you share with us, friend?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to take a couple of seconds for those of you who are maybe not 100% persuaded yet, I want to talk about something that I call the 3 C's of email marketing, and why having an email list, why focusing on your email marketing is the most important thing for you. So the first one, you're going to want to write these down. The first C of email marketing is collection. Okay, the first C of email marketing is collection. The reason this is so important is because what collection means is simply that you're gathering together on your email list. What your email list is, it's not just a list of email addresses. These are human beings who are interested in what you're doing. And if you're not collecting together the people who are interested in what you're doing, then you are making selling hard for yourself for the rest of your business. One of the things that I promised we were going to talk about, and it's a really easy little bullet point. This is the easiest possible way to never run out of people to sell your stuff to. What so many of us do in the beginning is we build all this content and we think somehow this is going to attract people to us. It's almost never that simple. And we're trying to create visibility, but not by putting ourselves out there in front of people. And then when we do put ourselves out there in front of people, we neglect to gather them together. So an example of this is one of my clients. We just had one of our tech calls yesterday, and she was like, I have been getting interviewed on podcasts twice a month for the last 4 months or something. I'm getting very few additions to my email list, it's not working. And so we're kind of going to drill into why isn't this working? And the reason that it wasn't working is that some of the podcasts that she was choosing to be on weren't really publishing so in case you need to have this piece as well, the way that you build an email list is by getting somebody's email address. And the way that generally that we do that is in exchange for something. So you're going to have a link to a free gift that I have for you, which is my personal tech tool resource guide. And the value exchange is I get to, if you're interested in, staying in touch with me further, I get to have your email address so that you're on my email list, and then I can continue to communicate with you. And you get this cool resource guide in exchange. So that's generally the way that this works. So that's what I'm talking about with building a list. And so Amy, my client Amy, she's getting on these podcasts. And some of the podcast hosts didn't want her to have a free gift at all. They just wanted her to share her information. Some of them just wanted to have her to have a website link versus a targeted link to say, hey, come grab my free gift. Some of them had gotten her free gift link, but they weren't really doing a good job of publishing that anywhere. Some of the people maybe just had small audiences for their podcast too, but this is the thing, is that we will do, I see so many people making all of this effort to get out there. They've written books, or they're putting courses together, or they're, like I said, they're everywhere on social media, and they're not taking just that one little extra step. Once the tech is set up, it's no extra work to just say, hey, here's this amazing content I'm sharing with you on social media. If you want more of this, it's on my email list. Here's a link for you to sign up. Just this one small step, just equate whatever visibility that you are creating for yourself, whether you're partnering with other people, whether you're speaking on stages, posting on social media, whatever you're doing to create visibility for yourself, layer in this piece of, I need to collect their email addresses. This is how you do it. So the first C of email marketing is collection. The second C is connection. This is a big deal too, because one of the things that we do is we put pressure on ourselves, or maybe we feel bad if we meet a prospect, we have somebody kind of on the line, and then they don't end up buying from us right away, and then we feel bad, or maybe we end up getting a little bit pushy or a little bit salesy because it's hard for us to get prospects. And so when we have a prospect, we push a little bit too hard, and then they're turned off by that and they leave. So the second C of email marketing, this connection piece, they've done all kinds of research on this, and I won't get into all of the nerdiness of it, but basically the research now is that it takes 15 touch points or more with you for someone to feel like they know you enough and they like you enough and they trust you enough for that to buy your thing, to pay you for something. And when we don't have an email list, how are we supposed to create those multiple touch points? How are we supposed to create that connection? It's really difficult, if not impossible, right? And so this connection piece is really is essential, because it honors the natural sales process that most of us go through when we're interested in buying something. And then the third C of email marketing is control. Okay, the third C of email marketing is control. And control basically just means that you get to take control of the conversations that you're having with your prospects. If you leave those to chance by not getting them on your email list, then it's like, how are they going to maybe see your post on social media? Are they maybe going to, randomly see you featured on somebody's summit? Like it's like all of a sudden it's to chance. And so if you know that it takes 15 touch points or more for somebody to be ready to buy something from you, rather than getting stressed out about that, you can be like, okay, if I've got a list, I get to take control of creating those touch points. And then it doesn't matter if it takes 5 touch points or it takes 50 touch points. It doesn't matter, because by nurturing your people consistently, by just simply sending them emails on a regular basis, you start to deepen that relationship, which is what makes selling way easier than it's ever been up until now, if selling is something that you struggle with. So email marketing is everything. And the other thing too is that, it's not that posting on social media is bad or it doesn't work. It's not that speaking gigs are bad or they don't work. All of that stuff is awesome. All of the efforts that you're making for visibility are good. But what we want to do is we want to add in this little techie piece of bringing whatever you're doing, bringing people to get your visibility, bring those people onto your list. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some techie stuff. I want to talk about the easiest possible way to do this. My favorite tool, this is the part, like I mentioned this, I don't know if we mentioned this before the recording started, but I think so. You may use different tools than me, and that's totally fine. All I want is for you to just do this. I just want you to focus on your email marketing, and whichever tools you use to do that, I'm thrilled. It's all good. If you're happy with what you're using, I'm happy. The tool that I recommend is ConvertKit. And I don't want you to go like, don't also in the same kind of vein, don't like check out now and then fall down the rabbit hole of Googling different tools and how ConvertKit compares to your tool or whatever. Just stay here in the room with us. I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have. The reason that I like ConvertKit is they have an awesome free level that you can, it's not time limited, it's email list subscriber limited. So after you get a certain number of subscribers, then you have to start paying them. Or if you want to unlock all of the features, you can start paying them right away. But their first level is something like $29 a month. And you can start for free if you need to. And the reason that I love ConvertKit so much is, number one, it's got probably it's got the best, like the most, if you're not very techie, it's got the gentlest learning curve for you. It also plays very nicely with all of your other tools. So if you need to make connections between your tools, it's good for that. Their customer service for the most part is great. Nobody's perfect, but they're pretty darn good. And the other thing that's really cool about ConvertKit is that it's got the other essential tech pieces that you're going to need. So when you're building your email list, like we talked about, you're going to invite people to grab your free gift. And that free gift, it's not something that I recommend that you just have up on your website. You can certainly have your free gift on your website, but websites are busy, distracting places with lots of things to look at and lots of things to click on and lots of things to read. And what happens when we give people all of those kind of cognitive options is they tend to take no action. They might consume information, but they tend not to take action. Whereas a landing page, for example, it's one of those pages where all there is to do on that page is say yes to the free gift that you're giving them, or say no and leave. And sometimes that freaks us out, but that's actually what we want, because we're not just building a list of prospects like with varying degrees of interest in what it is that you do. We only want people who see your free gift and are like, I totally need that. And they're willing to exchange their email address for it, right? So then you have your most interested people right there in front of you. And so there is a landing page that needs to be built. And then what that landing page needs to do is collect their name and their email address, put that information onto your email list, and then send them the free gift that you built for them in exchange. And ConvertKit allows you to do all of that for free if you need to do it for free. And also, the other piece of it is that ConvertKit also has a really basic but nice and clean sales feature as well. So if you have content that you're trying to sell, if you want to be making offers and monetizing, which I hope you do, ConvertKit allows you to start to monetize your business through their products option for no extra money, like including at the free level of ConvertKit. So, and one of the things that I'm a pretty frugal girl. Like I always love when tools empower you to get going and get monetized before they start charging you. And I don't know where the link, Marie, is going to live for my personal tech tool resource guide.
Yeah, I can pop it in the chat here in a minute, and I will also have it in the replay. We'll have it on all the stuff. We'll send it out. So I'll pop that in. I have a quick question. Esther asked this earlier. It seems like it fits right here where you're talking, but she was asking, should I build a website first, then do email, then website? But it seems like from ConvertKit, you're saying this one free tool can allow you to do a landing page, which would replace that website. So Esther, wherever you might be, can replace that website. You're building that email list at that same time. The biggest thing is just to be able to gather those people together, collect them, connect with them, all of the good C's that are on there. So if you want me to, is anything else on that? Just between building website first, email first. I am gonna share my screen. It turns out I thought you would.
So it's just I can't help myself. So so this is my website, and it's like was not my first website, by the way. My first website did not look as pretty as this one. This one's a couple of years old now, but it was, 5-6 years into the business that I kind of took the time to make myself a nice website. But you can see on this website, there's all of this stuff to do. There's stuff to read. You can go in my little shopping area. You can grab some freebies. You can read my bio. You can read all of these fun testimonials. Down here, there's the blog. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. It's a nice looking website. Just the visual of it lends a certain amount of credibility to me. Wonderful. It's not bad. Websites aren't bad, but I would like 99% of, I have an email list of just under 20,000 people now. 99% of that list has come through pages like this one. So this is an example of a landing page. This one actually isn't built with ConvertKit. Let me show you. Let me see if I can pull up another one that is.
And I just put that link in the chat there. And when you click on that link, you guys are going to see this page that Kathryn's showing.
Yes,
so
yes,
so you know.
yeah. That is the one. So this is a page that I built with the free like page builder tool in ConvertKit. So the question of, should I start with a website or should I start with this email listing? My strong recommendation is that you start here. Number one, it's more strategic. Number two, it's much simpler and much quicker. This page, I have a free train. I was a guest on somebody's stage a year ago or so, and I did a little talk on how to get your free gift done, including your tech, in 30 minutes or less. And I built this page like live on that stage. I mean, not on the stage, I was on a computer, but you know what I mean? Like, I built this whole thing out in that time frame. Now, if you're not quite as like agile with the tech as I am, that's okay. It might not take you 30 minutes. It might take you an hour. It could take you a day even, but contrast that with what most people do, which is they spend weeks or months or sometimes over a year getting this structure together. And there's always room for improvement. Like I said, my first website didn't look this pretty. But this website, even though it's significantly prettier than my last one, it does about the same for me, which is next to nothing. So your website kind of serves as a nice little, like a sort of a digital brochure for your business, but it's not necessarily going to actually strategically change the game for you. Whereas this is like, okay, do you want this free gift? Cool. Give me your contact information. I'll send it to you. And when you have a free gift that attracts your right people, and we can talk about that too, if that's something that serves you, I'm happy to do that. We start with what's something that attracts the people that you eventually want to sell your stuff to. What's a topic that's a burning thing that they want to know about. That becomes your free gift. And then a fun little entrepreneur hack for you. If you're like, okay, but what about when somebody asks me, like, what's my website? Or I'm handing out business cards, I'm at a networking event or whatever. And people ask to see my website, and I don't have a website. I just have this landing page. So what I have said in those situations, what I counsel my clients to say is, you know what, the website's under construction or the website's coming. But if you want to know more about what I do, I have this awesome free resource that's whatever, my personal tech tool resource guide. It's all the tech tools that I recommend. Or I have this fun little free gift that shows you how you can warm up a cold email list, or whatever your free gift is. And here's where you can go and grab that. And then you'll be on my email list and we can stay in touch that way. So that's how I handle that question, if that's a concern for you. And the other thing too, is that that's still how I handle that question. I don't say my website's under construction anymore, because it's not, but I will just simply say, I do have a website, of course, but if you really want to learn more about what I do and stay in touch with me, the best way to do that is by jumping onto my email list, and here's where you can do that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Quick question. Yes, super helpful. Esther is just making kind of a connection here, and I want to make sure we tap into that, while you're building your website, you can use ConvertKit to keep doing that. And Kathryn just showcased that, right? Like,
yeah,
you can still be doing both. There's no reason that you don't need to work on your website, but ConvertKit allows you to start that today. Yeah. Like, you can go in.
Yeah, because anything that we're doing if we don't have the infrastructure built to bring people onto our email list, if we don't have that part yet, then in my opinion, everything else that we're doing is potentially a distraction or a waste of time. Because if you're building a course, or you're putting together a website, or you're writing a million blog posts, or you're posting everywhere on social media, all of the things that I did when I started my wedding blog, if I have no visibility, none of that stuff helps me, right? And so I'm working and I'm spending all kinds of time on all of this techie stuff, and it's doing absolutely nothing for me. And the course that I built, and this is just sort of a fun little cautionary tale for you. The course that I built was called the Alternative Bride's Guide to Wedding Savings. And it was all about how to plan a wedding on a budget. And it was full of coupon codes for all of these different online retailers that sell wedding stuff. What's the problem with that course? I have no visibility. I'm not actually selling this course. I have all of this infrastructure, like non-email list visibility kind of infrastructure. What's the problem with building a course that's full of coupon codes when nobody is buying it? Anybody know? Anybody guess? They change, they expire. So I was like spending time, exactly. Jacqueline, yes, I was spending all of this time like refreshing and updating this course. So anything that you're doing that is like, it's not an exercise in visibility. Like, why are you doing it? I didn't need to update any of those coupon codes until somebody bought the course. And, that didn't happen for a super, super long time. So I really, and like Marie was just saying, you can kind of do them both in tandem. And I really encourage you. One of the reasons that I love ConvertKit too, is that this, I want to talk some more about some techie stuff too. I just thought of something, but this page is a template. So I customized the colors and I grabbed the photo. They have a relationship with a free stock photography company too. So you don't even have to go searching for pictures. It's amazing. But you can get it's really simple templates that are very simple for you to customize. And then the free gift itself also can be super simple. You can even, if you do like in this instance, if you had signed up for this 5 simple steps to warm up a cold email list, what you would get on the other side of that is an email from me with either, I can't remember if I set it up as 5 steps written out in one email, or if it's like 5 emails with 1 step per email dripped out over a series. But either way, I didn't create like an ebook or some sort of a PDF guide or whatever.
Well, the beautiful part is everybody here is on the TFM list. So you guys have content.
Yeah.
You have content in your inbox probably right now. You probably have it downloaded right now. Makes it so much easier to get this. Go ahead, Justin.
I was biting my tongue, but you said it. So.
I got you.
Yes. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Exactly. You've got the content. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. This part gets to be quick. Like it gets to be easy. It doesn't have to be this like fancy, fluffy, elaborate thing that takes you 5,000 years to put together, especially because you've got this shortcut with the content, right? Like and I mean, even, the personal tech tool resource guide that is the gift that you get for, listening to this training with me today. That's a Google Doc. It's not a PDF that, I'm sending out that took me extra time to create and design and make pretty. And then I send it out to you and then maybe something changes and I don't get to update it. It's this living document. It's that where I can refresh it for you whenever it needs refreshing. And it was extremely quick and simple for me to create. So I just encourage you, like, even it can always iterate later, like you can always change it later. And one of the things, this is the piece that I want to talk about really quickly about my tech tool resource guide, is that I do run my business with more tools now than just ConvertKit. And my tech spend is not $0 a month anymore. But the business is in a place where I can justify those expenditures, right? And that's what I want for you too. I don't like to have people overextend themselves on tech if we can at all avoid it. So the tech tool resource guide is not just it's not just me like throwing a bunch of affiliate links at you for a bunch of different tools that I recommend that you check out. It's kind of like the anti that. And it's not even just here are the tools that I recommend and here are the tools that I use. It's actually, here's the tech you need. Here's why you need it. Here's how you know when it's time for you to layer in another piece. And here's the tool that I recommend for that as well. And so it's really, everything that I teach is sort of right steps, right order, and the tech part is no exception. And you'll see that in my personal tech tool resource guide there, because really, like, so that the page that I just showed you, for example, this ConvertKit page, this one of the questions that will end up happening as you work on this is you'll be like, how do I, is it possible for me to swap? So I want the opt-in box on the left and I want the image on the right, for example, or, how can I add, like, I want to add a spot to put a big banner up here. The answer to that question is in ConvertKit, you can't. And there's a trade-off there, right? Because it's a free tool and it's also really designed for email marketing. It's not really designed for page building. And for that reason, they give you something that, in my opinion, is more than good enough. It's quick and simple. It allows you to get out there on a budget if you need to. And there's going to be a time where you're like, what about if I want to build a sales page? What about if I want to get more custom with these templates? What about if I want to do this? And then the answer is actually, that's how you know that's an organic internal thing with you as a business owner. That's like a little tap from the universe saying it's time for you to consider layering in more tech. And that's how the tech tool resource guide is designed. So this page, this is the opt-in for the what I'm talking about, my tech tool resource guide. This page isn't designed with ConvertKit, it's designed with the next tool that I recommend that you layer in. But the functionality, the core functionality is the same. It's just that I have the flexibility to, you can put whatever you want on this page. And it also allows you to build things like sales pages, like pop-ups, websites, if you want to, all of that kind of stuff. But it's like something that I'm really proud of with the tech tool resource guide is that it's this organic, natural layering in of tech only when you need it. So it's not like dumping a bunch of stuff on you. It's not, especially if you're not techie, it's not like here's 75 things that you need to learn. It's just like, here's where you focus. And then here's how you know when it's time to up level. And that's how the guide is structured.
I have a quick question, Kathryn. We've got a couple people who have some programs they're using. Constant Contact is in here. They're looking at that comparison. I know we don't have forever, right? Like I have full understanding that you could probably go in forever on these, but what's the best way for them to get those questions answered, like the different Constant Contact and ConvertKit? And then Jason was asking about, delivering PLR programs the way that Gumroad does. And so some of those are specific tech tools. What do you think about those kind of questions?
So as far as the ConvertKit versus Constant Contact or Keep or ActiveCampaign or MailChimp or MailerLite or all the things. The short answer is I have looked at just about every email marketing tool under the sun and I prefer ConvertKit. The longer answer is there are 5 criteria for tech tools that I look at and that I encourage you to look at. And again, I know I said this already, but just sort of at the top, before we even get into these 5 criteria, if you're using an email marketing tool, like if you're using MailChimp, I do not care for MailChimp. They provide 0 customer service at the free level of MailChimp, which is where most people start at MailChimp. And I understand why they do that, but it's also, I like it when people have customer service for you. So, but if you're like, I love MailChimp and I'm totally growing my email list and I've got this infrastructure together and I'm doing all this visibility stuff to grow my list, like awesome. There is a possibility that your business, a strong likelihood that your business is going to get to a place, and I feel the same way about Constant Contact, by the way. There's going to be a strong possibility you're going to get to a place where your email list has grown to the point and your business has grown to a point where you feel like that tool, you're outgrowing that tool. And this is another thing that's kind of cool about the tools that I recommend is you don't actually outgrow them. So when I talk about layering in technology, it's not throw your old tech stack in the garbage and start fresh with a more expensive, more fancy tool that has more bells and whistles. Because that thing that happens where we're like, this tech that I have is no longer serving me, I think I need to change to something else. That always happens when you're growing. And when you're growing is the worst time for you to take your eye off the ball and start focusing on your techie stuff. It sucks. So, but it's also not the end of the world. Like I said, if you're using a tool that's not my favorite tool, but you are actively growing your email list, you're actively putting yourself out there, I'm so happy. Like, yay, that's all I care about. What I don't want is you hiding behind your computer, tinkering with your techie stuff endlessly and not actually getting out there, not actually growing your email list, because that's where you're dooming yourself to struggle with this forever. Anyway, so asterisk, caveat, explained the 5 criteria that I use for vetting tech tools for myself and for my clients, and that I'd encourage you to do as well. Is number 1, is it free or low cost? Now this one can be a little bit of a trap, because one of the earlier on even including the wedding blog, the website that I built, in addition to that just being strategically not the brightest step, it was also, I chose a really difficult tool. And so it was way harder than it needed to be, but it was free, and that was what attracted me to it. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with MailChimp. Like, it's free is attractive. And if you're comparing like ConvertKit's free level versus MailChimp's free level, there's no contest. The ConvertKit is way better. So there's nothing wrong with free, but and I appreciate a value conscious buyer. When we're a little too value conscious, it can get us into trouble, and that's why that's on there. So that's the first one, though. Free or low cost. Number 2 is, does it actually do what you need it to do? And then number 3 is sort of an extension of that, which is without so many bells and whistles that it becomes too expensive, or it becomes really, the learning curve becomes really intense. So is it free or low cost? Does it do what you need it to do without too many bells and whistles? The other thing too is that tools that tend to have a lot of bells and whistles tend to do one thing well, and everything else tends to not be great. So free or low cost, does it do what you need it to do? Not too many bells and whistles, so the learning curve is really tough. Do they have good customer service? So you can ask questions not as a tech expert, but you can ask them questions as like a normal confused human who is stuck with something in your tech, and they will answer you in a normal human words in a timely fashion. That's important to me. And then the last thing is integrations, or will your tools talk to each other? Will they play together nicely? A lot of times we will, there's new tech tools being launched every week, and they all promise that they're like the latest greatest thing, but the latest greatest things tend not to integrate with tools that are gold star standard tools that are sort of ubiquitous across the industry. So and that can be a real pain as well. So those are my 5 criteria for choosing tech. And you can look at Constant Contact, for example, versus ConvertKit and see. I can tell you with that specific tool, and like I said, we don't really have time to go into the nuances of ConvertKit versus every other email marketing platform under the sun. With Constant Contact specifically, it's does it do what you need it to do? And Constant Contact is a bit of a dinosaur. And again, it's like, if it works for you, cool. If you're already using it, amazing. But if you're at the part where you're making the decision, there's no question which way I would go on that. And then as far as Gumroad, I mean, that's fine. If we're course delivery can be, content delivery, product delivery can be very, very simple. I have this incredibly elaborate membership site now, but that's not where I started. My membership program when I started was a Facebook group and email. So we did live trainings on Facebook Live in the group, and the recordings lived there in the group. And I posted handouts and things in the group, and I would send people emails and let them know there was a training coming up, and it was a private Facebook group. So, it was just for people who paid to be in my program. And then once we got to a couple dozen members, that started to just feel a little unwieldy. But again, I didn't overcomplicate it, because now, I mean, the Clarity Momentum Success membership program, which is my signature program, we have I don't know, over 100 training videos. There's all kinds of handouts. There's so much value and content in there for you. But if I had waited to launch it until all of that was done, I mean, it's got to be the same, Justin. It's got to be the same with your business. Like if you were waiting until I have every like bit of PLR brilliance out there, and then I'm going to launch it, like you still wouldn't have launched it, right? Like it's like we're always iterating, we're always improving, we're always adding things. And so when I launched my membership program, I had pre-created a couple of literally two handouts to help people figure out who their ideal client is and what their offer was going to be. And then the rest of it, I taught it live. I taught everything live for 2 years. And then we sort of we were like gradually fleshing out this members website.
Yeah, if I could chime in quick on that.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting that you brought that up. Yeah, first of all, never wait. You got to start, you got to put something out there. What's the worst that's going to happen is people go, this is no good or whatever, just give them their money back.
Yeah.
You have to have something out there to prove that you're in business, you mean business, you have some value to offer. And there was a question, and apologies, I didn't write down your name, saying, could you tell us more about getting visibility? Now that's a huge discussion. We may not have time to go into all of it, but to answer that question, you have to have an offer. So whether you have a product, a service, a coaching program, a course, whatever, a lot of people ask that question and they don't have the answer to that first piece, which is what is your offer? So you need to make sure you're very, very clear on what that first offer is. And then my answer and Kathryn's answer and Marie and everybody else, your answer to getting the visibility will vary. But there's certainly a lot of the tips here, getting an email list, getting featured and all that, getting yourself out there will get you the visibility, but making sure that you have something to send them to.
Yes.
Is absolutely the first piece.
Totally. Yeah. And you don't, I mean, as far as the offer goes, like it doesn't even have to be a paid offer. Like if your offer is your lead magnet, your offer is your free gift. Like if all I had was my personal tech tool resource guys, like I don't know what I'm going to sell and I don't know exactly who my ideal client is and I'm not totally clear on any of it, but like I know I can help you figure out your techie stuff. Here is a list of tools that I use and here's why. My very first free gift was actually an iteration of the tech tool resource guide, it was called the only 3 tech tools you need to get up, running and profitable online. And what you're getting here is it's an up level from that. But that was that was kind of my best guess. And, since then it's been like almost 7 years since I started my coaching business. It's evolved, and it's not just that the offer has evolved, like my ideal client has evolved. Me being, that question when people are like, so what do you do? And you like sort of have a little internal panic attack about it because you struggle to say what you do. Like we've all been there. And I don't struggle to say what I do anymore, but it has evolved, it has changed, and it continues to change. And the only way because so much of the time we get stuck at the starting line because we're trying to have all of this clarity. So my program's called Clarity, Momentum, Success. We call it CMS for short because clarity, momentum, success is a huge mouthful, but the clarity piece is like bare minimum of clarity, like bare minimum. It's like, I want to help people with the tech. Cool. And then, you get out there and you help some people with the tech. And then you're like, okay, so I do want to help people with the tech, but I don't want to help people who just are like, they just want to turn a blind eye to it and just hire a virtual assistant because I know that it's hard to hire help if you don't know what you don't know. So it's like, and then these are just personal things for me on my journey where you just kind of gradually figure this out. But you have to be willing to get out there, and it's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. I am a dyed-in-the-wool perfectionist, and Marie knows this as well. And it's like, it's just not going to be perfect. I want it to be perfect, but it never will be. And if we're letting the idea of I need to stay at the starting line until I have this whole entire thing figured out. And that, the question of how do I get the visibility? A lot of people get stuck there because they think it's like, okay, well, how do I get to, 1,000 people on my list? And it's like, you know what, let's just focus on getting 5 people on your list. And I know like a lot of online marketing coaches don't necessarily, a lot of us are actually taught to sort of, it's like these pie in the sky, like, let's add 10,000 people to your list in 10 seconds while you're asleep and it's going to be amazing. It's like, I mean, that's not really reality for any of us. And I think we have to be patient. We have to be willing to celebrate the small wins because those wins really add up.
Yeah, absolutely. Kathryn, I know we're coming to the top of the hour. You mentioned that, you're working on a timeline too. So I want to make sure we There's so much here. Like, this is
Yeah.
so good. And I don't know if you have some more that you want to talk about, because you kind of gave us some bullet points there, but I'm kind of just checking on the time there.
Yeah, I've hit the highlights. I'm happy to just answer the
So
questions.
I have a quick question that Colleen answered. So good, because we got a couple minutes, so we're just going to keep going.
Yep.
Colleen is asking, do you find that the tools that meet the 5 criteria also provide tutorials and step-by-step just help for beginners there? And she's talking about, those people, the people that are beginners, they're looking for like, how should I and what should I and all of those things. And so you're talking about these criteria of tools. Any insights on that, on some of those tools?
So yeah, I do. This is a really interesting question because there is a huge variation in the amount of help that is available in those tools. And sometimes it can be tricky depending on your level of tech comfort. This can be a tricky one because the help articles are there for you. Hopefully, some of the newer tools actually don't even have that, which is horrible, but the help articles are there for you. But if you don't know what you don't know, it's hard to even know what to search for, right? It's hard to even, and so there's an interesting nuance here that I want to make sure that I kind of clarify for you. So if you struggle with tech, and you're like, so, okay, if I'm going to buy this tool, are they going to show me like strategically the best way to use it? Or like, the answer is basically no. And there's a distinction here. And the analogy that I like to use is like, if you were to get into a taxi and, you get into a taxi, the taxi driver turns around and says, where are you going? And you're not going to say, I don't know where I'm going, but take my money, please make sure that I get there. Right? That's not getting knowing where you're going is your job. It's not the taxi driver's job. And so if you feel that way with your tech, if you're like, I don't know, if you feel that sort of space of, I don't know what I don't know if what I'm working on right now is the thing that's going to help me like move in the right direction. You don't necessarily need more tech tools, or you don't need to hire like a tech person to do your tech for you. What you need is a tech coach. You need somebody to explain that part to you so that strategically you get to stay in the driver's seat of which is kind of a funny mixed metaphor because we're talking about taxis, but I want you to stay in control. I want you to be the CEO of your business. And so much of the time when we don't, it's like, okay, I'm just going to buy a tool, but like, what am I going to do with it? There's a strategic path there, right? There's a bigger vision. And if you don't have that, it's not really that tech tool's job to provide that for you. So and that might not be exactly the question that you're asking. I just want to make sure that we do touch on that because it is important. You want to go like into ConvertKit. And so, I mean, the tech coaching piece is what my program is all about, right? Because this is a piece that I've seen is just kind of needed in the online marketing space. But even just from, this 40 minutes or an hour that we've spent together, if you choose to get ConvertKit or whatever tool you choose to get, we started, just like I said, like at the beginning, we started with the strategy, right? So if you get into ConvertKit, you're like, what I need to do is I need to build a landing page and get people onto my email list. And if you go search through ConvertKit's help articles, that's like how to build a landing page, or you go to their support staff, like the help chat, and you say, hey, I know I need to build a landing page. How do I do that? Absolutely, somebody's going to help you. And if you need some, and the reason my program exists is to help with the hand-holding of kind of all of the big picture that fits around that. But I'm just kind of trying to be really clear about where the tech tools responsibilities start and end so that you are not frustrated with them providing help that they're not really set up to help you with.
Super helpful.
Marie,
Justin, did you have something? Yep.
Yeah, I just want to reread a really great comment from I think it was Colleen, but I think it's important because a lot of people think this, and I applaud Colleen for having the courage to ask it. So it says, I find that a lifeline, as many of us beginners are hesitant to ask stupid questions, quote, and shrink from you should know this type of responses, which is super frustrating. Like that shouldn't be happening, whether you're buying a tech tool, if you're coming to Tools Motivation. we don't know what level you're at. Maybe you just opened up your computer today. Like if we have a service or a product out there and we're offering it to you, somebody should be there to help. Trevor's here on the call. He's our sales manager. And I know Trev would rather get a text message or a phone call from you asking your quote unquote stupid questions than not. Because most of our businesses, Kathryn's, Marie's, mine, everybody that's here, Chad's been answering a lot of questions in the chat as well. We'd rather hear from you to be able to help you. There are a lot of great business owners out there that want you to ask the stupid questions. So never, ever, ever let that thinking or that sort of mindset stop you. In fact, I'd say err on the side of overdoing it the other way. Ask more of the questions and don't let any of that and that kind of stuff, any poor responses or rude responses from people ever stop you. Nothing, if that stops you, then something else will stop you as well. And you'll never be successful with your business. So don't let that kind of thinking or attitude, anything like that, ever hold you back. Keep asking, push for the responses you need, and then you'll guarantee your business will be successful. It just shows that you bring your full self to the table. I'll stop now. I just really wanted to say that, and great question.
Totally. I
love this other one too. I don't know. I'm just going to say that because Esther put in here, this has been super helpful. You know, this has touched on so many points that have been struck. You guys are an answer to prayer. I'm going to watch the replay. So Kathryn, you know, thanks. This is coming up from everybody in the chat. I know you don't always watch all the chat things, but this has been really super helpful. Great session. Eddie said it. Looking forward to it. Chat's been great to kind of just help people answer some questions too. All good things. I just put in the chat again, you know, how you can grab Kathryn's gift. That link is there. It goes straight into you grabbing all those tools you've been talking about. She's suggesting very specific things, and we want you to be sure that you grab that. Some people have to leave at the top of the hour, so we just know that, but super, super thankful to have you here, Kathryn. If you guys have other questions, let us know. Kathryn, I know you kind of had to go, but I don't want to keep you. We can always stay on.
I just checked with my team. I've got I can go till 10 past.
Okay.
I really for sure have to go.
That's okay. Great. We had a couple questions we already answered, definitely about the visibility. We kind of touched on that. I know Justin touched on that. Visibility is out there. Biggest thing is start today. We've talked about this before. I know when I did my training for the community here, it was get going today. Kathryn has this really great thing out there that is just start today and don't stop. Every little bit. I
don't know if you can read it, but start now. Don't stop. Never stop, it says, but yes.
Yeah. And I saw a really great graphic. I reposted it on my LinkedIn, but it was like little moons, and all of them were filled in at the top. And the other one, it was like a half moon, full moon, you know, quarter moon. And both of them are consistency. It's just about keep going. So we're going to just leave that there. Remember to start today. Kathryn's been giving us some great tips. I know Justin has in the chat too. So if you guys have any other questions, let us know, pop them in the chat. We have a couple more minutes with Kathryn. Justin, anything pop up in your mind? Because
I'm just going to keep putting, I'm going to put the link once more, because this is, again, this is a free value training. Kathryn's delivered incredible value over the course of an hour here. We're trying to answer all your questions. So please do head over to her link, hop on her list, support her work. It allows us to also keep getting experts like Kathryn and Marie to come back. So it really supports us in being able to run these trainings. Again, like I mentioned on the other few sessions, is there's a lot of webinars out there that claim to be trainings, and we've all been frustrated leaving them early because they're not. They're a giant sales pitch. This is literally somebody giving as much as they can. So it's super important that that you do support the work. So please do check the link out. Now, that's not to say that all of these sessions are going to be entirely pitch free. There are going to be times where there are offers, but as you can see, Tools for Motivation, our MO is to really lead with value and try to answer the questions. So today we really wanted to focus on, again, Trevor gets questions every single day on basic tech, and we want you to feel comfortable. Like we've seen a number of people chatting, they don't feel comfortable to ask. We want you to feel comfortable to ask. We've proven it. Kathryn's okay hearing these questions. Marie's okay hearing these questions. Chad's in the chat being okay answering those questions, right? So again, I don't want to harp on that anymore, but I think it's super important that you guys do support the work. So thank you for showing up live. That's amazing. And thank you, Kathryn, for providing a great tool for them to continue on their journey with you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
We had a quick question back here. Maybe you can just touch on this real quick as we got a couple more minutes with you. But Marlene was asking, what do you use for your membership site? Because you said you have kind of a extensive big membership site. Okay. You want to share?
I will. Listen, though, everybody, I know I already told you how I started how the humble beginnings of the Clarity Momentum Success Program. The membership tool that I use is like the one area of my business where I don't want to say I don't practice what I preach, because that's not true, but it is very far down the path of the evolution of my business. I use a tool called Access Ally. It's a WordPress plugin. If you don't know what that is, it already means like, don't put yourself through it. Like it's fine. You don't need it. Access Ally is, I think it's $2,000 a year, and it's got so many cool features, and it is very difficult. As for all the features that it has, it's very user-friendly, but more features equals more complicated to figure out how to use it. And that's one of the things that I'm always trying to balance for my clients is like I said, let's make sure you have the features you need, but without so many bells and whistles that it makes you, want to throw your laptop out the window. Because Access Ally, this expensive, super techie tool that I use, was like the third or fourth iteration of how I delivered my content, my CMS content to my clients. So that's the one that I use. I really love it. Cannot recommend it highly enough if you can justify it. If anything that I just said, any of the words that I used overwhelmed you, and I hope that doesn't sound condescending. This is one of the things that I talk about on my campus a lot is if you're feeling overwhelmed, notice that, but also take responsibility for it. And what I mean by that is because I also on my campus have people who are at different stages of their business, sometimes you'll hear someone, this is one of the things that can lead to that not feeling confident or feeling stupid asking a question, because when you hear other people ask questions and the question is more advanced than where you are, so you don't even understand the question that's being asked, much less the answer that's being provided. And so when you take responsibility for your overwhelm, what that means is you go, okay, on my campus, if people hear a question that doesn't suit where they are. So for example, if my answer is it's a WordPress plugin and you're like, what's a WordPress plugin? That doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you're behind. It doesn't mean anything other than I just don't need to know this information right now. And I know that Kathryn will be here for me when I am at the stage of my business where this iteration makes sense for me. And it's a really good way to support you in not falling into that trap of feeling like you're the dumbest person in the room, which is super unkind language for us to use on ourselves. And the only reason I bring it up is because I've heard that expressed to me hundreds of times over the years, where people are like, and like you were talking about, like they're afraid to ask questions because they feel stupid. And my community is living proof that and Justin, of course, you too, it's like, there's a home for you. You're allowed to ask those questions. And we all had them at one point. And I don't know what it is about us, like self-starting, like go-getting entrepreneurs that makes us feel like we need to somehow be like born with all of the answers for like how to work a computer, but we all have to figure this out. Like we just do.
That's a really helpful thing to say. And it's also, I think just adding on to that, and I think we have some, a couple more minutes here, but adding on to that is that you might have to ask this question today on like, how do I do this? And it's okay if you have to ask the same question in a couple weeks from now. Ask it again. Make sure you do that muscle memory. Keep going with it. The more that you do things, just like everything else, right? We're talking about riding a bike. The more you do it, the easier it's going to be. Totally. So set those things up. Keep moving forward with it. I know Justin put some really great information in the chat as well. Like take these steps. It's this step, this step, this step. Exactly what Kathryn said too. You need to collect emails. You collect emails by doing this. When you collect emails, you send them something free. Continue to do that, and you'll grow your email list. Those email lists become those people that are your raving fans, which is what I talked about a couple weeks ago. Right. And that is, those are your buyers. You're creating your perfect and amazing people because nobody has to stay there. Mm-hmm. And your email list is the great space where you can stay connected with them. That's how Justin started this business. That's how Kathryn has. I know there's other people on here as well. So if that's where you are, you're here to hear this, and we're thankful that you're in this space. Kathryn, I know that you have to go. Justin, did you see any other questions? Really
Well,
super
yeah,
quick.
there were, stick around. For those of you here live, stick around after the recording ends and we continue to answer questions, but I do want to respect Kathryn's time. She's got to run. For those of you watching on the recording, just before I hit stop and you got a lot of value from this, please do send in either some feedback or a testimonial, some kind words for Kathryn to be able to use and give her the feedback, because it certainly
Thanks,
helps.
guys.
I know when I do free trainings, I love, you can never get enough of that. I'm sure everybody here can relate. So definitely send that into our help desk. We'll make sure that Kathryn gets to see that. Kathryn, thank you so much. This has been amazing. You can already see the chats lighting up with lots of thank you messages already. So once again, really appreciate everybody's time, especially for those of you being here live. You invested over an hour with us today, so we definitely acknowledge and appreciate that, and hope you continue to do so for future trainings. Kathryn, do you have anything to add before we end the recording?
I do, and I always do this. I'm running late, and it's okay. They'll forgive me. I want to just talk really just super quickly this. So there was a question earlier about, how do I get the visibility? That's the right question to be asking. And so it's just a little parting thought for you. Like that's the question. All of the tech and all of the content delivery, all of that will flow from, if you focus on visibility, the rest of your sort of strategic to-dos will kind of fall out of that. And there's a magic question that I like to use for this, that I teach in my program. This is a writer downer. It's, who do I know? Who knows my people? That's how you answer. That's how you solve the visibility problem. Because visibility is hard. Like it's especially when you're getting going, it's hard. So if you're starting from scratch with your email list, who do I know who knows my people? Are there associations where my prospective clients are already gathering? Do I have friends who have an audience with those people? Are there some of those people that I know? And you're not necessarily selling to them. This is the other nice thing about just having a free gift to get people on a list, is it takes that pressure away, right? It's like, my first list growth happened, and actually most of my list growth still happens by me partnering with other people. So, swapping visibility for a webinar or whatever. My list grew from 0 to 45 people when I did my first webinar, because I had lovely entrepreneur friends who were willing to share the word about my webinar, and I made no sales on that webinar. And it was a start. That's where I started. Because I had those people on my email list, those 45 people, and we talked about the three C's of email marketing, right? Two of them being connection and control. We know that most of those people didn't buy right away because they'd never heard of me before. So we didn't have enough touch points yet. Some of those people did become my buyers from the very first webinar. Some of those people have been in my Clarity Momentum Success program the entire time it's been running. They're like loyal, raving fans, like Marie talked about. These are humble beginnings where we have a multiple six-figure business now, and it's just been sort of this like slow and steady wins the race. Lots of ups and downs, lots of trials, lots of confusion, but wins, and dusting ourselves off and picking ourselves up, and you just continue to iterate and figure it out. But that question, who do I know who knows my people, will always guide you in the right direction. And the cool thing about focusing your attention, taking that visibility that you develop from answering that question and funneling those people from whatever visibility you're creating for yourself and getting them onto a list, is that, what's the answer to that question? When you have a healthy email list of 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 people, what's the answer to the question? Go ahead and put it in the chat of, who do I know who knows my people? What's the answer to the question then? I'll give you a second. Yeah, exactly, Laura. I do. I know who knows my people. It's me. They're on my list. So when I do a launch now, fast forward to the very first webinar I ever did, where I had 45 people express an interest in the free webinar and 0 people buy my first thing, which is normal, by the way. We obviously don't have time to get into metrics. It's like, that's the expected result for a webinar of that size. Now, we had our first 6-figure launch a few months ago. We just did a little internal launch where we made about $50,000 with no partners at all. So no affiliate commissions, no Facebook ad spend. It was like, that's, often we talk about marketing math and how, a lot of your profits go in other directions. In this launch, it was like, it all stayed in-house for the most part, with the exception of like transaction fees and that kind of thing. But that thing of like, I'm doing a launch, or I want to have a sale, or I want to do a holiday promotion, or I want to do a Facebook Live and have people show up, and they're not buying, they're not showing up, you know, and you're just like, how do I get people to notice me? This is how. Like, and yes, like the list is still growing. We're still focusing on the same exact things that I taught in this webinar. It's a slightly different iteration of it because we're further down the path, but it's the same thing. And when the answer to the question of who do I know who knows my people is me, I know they're on my list. Can you see the power that that gives you for you to have consistency in your business, for you to feel like you're never wondering where your next client is coming from? Like, it changes everything. And it doesn't mean that there's not challenges, but the challenges change in really fun and interesting ways when you keep your focus there. So anyway, I'm going to go, but thank you so much for having me, you guys. Justin, Marie, this is honestly just, you have a wonderful community here, and it's been such a pleasure to get to nerd out on some tech stuff for an hour with you.
That was awesome. Thanks again. That was so much fun.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Here, we're going to stop the recording now. And then for those of you that want to stick around, we'll be here for a few minutes. Thanks. See you, Kathryn.